Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Eniwetok preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Magazine here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I have got, I have to apologize to you, and then I have to tell you, lucky you. We have had a glitch with being able to get Dr. Mary Helen Hensley on. That's not right. But at any rate, it is right. We are not sure what is going on. I believe she is having some communication issues, but I am so lucky because I have my friend, and most of you probably know her as well. Her name is Michele Freed. She is a remote viewer. She's also very big in, basically all fields of the paranormal. She's a promoter. She is a representative for different people in the field, and she's brilliant. So I think that we're very lucky. Michele, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for being with me.
Spontaneous, but we like spontaneity. Did I say that right? I don't know.
Almost. Spontaneity.
Yes, there you go.
All right. What can I say? But, it's always one thing or another, but the good thing about doing this kind of thing is when you can be flexible and not completely wig out, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I am But, it's one thing that I have always found is that things always work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer that there are no coincidences. And I've been wanting to talk to you for months anyway.
So it just worked out. Yeah, I was just kind of hanging out, not really doing anything very important, just kind of chilling. There's really not a lot to do during the pandemic. So a lot of family time, but sometimes family time gets a lot, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And, I am just so tired of the pandemic. It seems to not be bringing out the best in all things and all people. And, I want to tell people that I get called Pollyanna a lot, but I really do think that even with all the people who are upset and hurting, I have a person in my family currently being tested for COVID, and she was symptomatic a week ago, so maybe she will just be through the worst of it now. And they wouldn't test her. She went to a hospital satellite, and they wouldn't test her. So shame on them. It's frustrating. And even with that, you just have to sit there and say, okay, I don't have control over this, but I can send energy toward it. And that kind of controls it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's putting it out there.
Yeah, I have to say, I have kids that are college age kids, and when this happened, they had to come back home. So we're all under one roof. I have 3 of them, and my daughter, especially, I think the millennial age. It's what I've noticed is that they haven't seen us as a world or a nation overcome any kind of tragic things. They were born after 9/11, so they didn't see or witness or experience us coming, out of and recovering or healing from anything. So they say things like, this is the end of the world, and they get depressed and they start thinking, that this is it. And I had a talk with my daughter. I don't know if she'll even listen, but I basically said, it's a horrible thing, but, you can take this opportunity and look at yourself. It's time, like, go within and make sure that your compass is pointed in the right direction and that your life is going the way that you want it to. And with 20-something million people out of a job, that means that people that have worked at a company for many, many years have an opportunity to reinvent themselves. I mean, when you work in a company with the same people day in and day out, if you change your socks, they'll know. So you really can't change anything. But this, I mean, we can look at it, and I don't even think it's so Pollyanna. I guess some people would think that. I like that word. But the truth is that it is an opportunity, and we don't want to let that miss us, because we can leverage on this.
Well, we can. And, it's just, I think part of the problem is that they are, as you said, they've never seen what Americans do when they come together. And they're being fed by people with a vested interest in keeping us apart. So it makes that difficult too. And so, they really don't have, as you said, a background in understanding these things. And the fact that our history is not being taught accurately, and it hasn't been. I mean, government takeover of education, in my opinion, was a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But you have teachers now who are starting to teach who have never been taught accurate history. And so what they're teaching, they believe to be fact. That's why you see, the people that are pulling down statues, they don't know who they're pulling.
Right.
They're pulling down abolitionists. They're pulling down, people that have championed every equality since, time began. And, it's just so sad because they're spending all that wonderful energy on negatives. And if they would just kind of, I don't want to say not by the hype, because I do understand the basis, but we're far beyond the original match to the tinderbox. And I worry that his legacy is going to be lost in all the violence and destruction. So, I just don't know what to consider doing with that. So, it's all I do is just pray, and I pray that everyone stays safe. And it's hard. I have children that live away from me. And it is just, that's scary.
Yeah, I think, trying to find answers and solutions to all these big problems are overwhelming, and they get you depressed because you do get to a point where you're so overwhelmed that you feel like, well, there's nothing I can do. But if we each individually, by ourselves, help ourselves, because we're the only ones we have control over. And if we if we're making sure that we are doing the right thing and that we are kind of going down the course and being good people and accepting, unconditional love, which is accepting, even if somebody has a different opinion than you have, when you're in this place of defense where you feel defensive, like somebody is threatening your belief, then maybe you need to question your belief if you feel like you're being in that position, because maybe there is something that someone's triggering in you that maybe you need to look at and say, okay, wait, I need to reevaluate where I'm standing on this because somebody's kind of pushing my buttons. And I think that, so really, if each person could focus on themselves and make sure that they're operating from a really, unconditional love place, and accepting of other people, I think that it's more manageable than trying to solve all the problems with government and education. But one little bit, it's meaningful. It's a lot,
Well, like I said, all I can do is pray, and that, flow energy, and that's pretty effective. And all of us have that ability, no matter, what you do, whether it's praying, chanting, whether it's meditation and guided energy and, universal thought, then that is a big deal. It's very effective. But it's really difficult for me to keep my eye on the ball when I'm doing that. I have a difficult time with understanding, sometimes what the best method of focusing my energy would be. So really, I just try to be the best me that I can.
That's what I think. If each person could be like you, the world will be better.
Well, do you mind if I tell people a little bit about you?
No, go ahead.
Well, we had a shift in the dynamic, and so I was very fortunate that I was, touching base with Michele. Michele Freed she's the producer of The Competition. I'm kidding. I just love that we have all these things to do.
I have to say, I don't even think, because, all right, so I'm working on I know I'm interrupting you, I apologize, but I have to say this, that there isn't really competition,
I
because
don't
I
think
think
so
that
either.
every host, they have a different angle and a different personality, and I think it's great. I love it. I love that there are so many shows out there that everyone can download or be subscribers or listen live or whatever. I think it's fantastic, and it pushes us as producers to find really unique guests. And so
Yes,
I like that challenge.
I do
Sorry
too.
about
No, that was nothing. I was tongue in cheek because I
that.
think that everything you've been involved with, and I think Tim is fantastic. But you are the producer of the Midnight Society talk show,
hmm
and you produced Midnight in the Desert.
Yep.
You are the founder and a hypnotherapist at the Butterfly Effect Center, and I want to get some information on that as we go through. You're a trained remote viewer, and you also attended the International School of Clairvoyance, which is to me quite something. And you studied hypnosis at the Alternative
hmm
Practitioners Academy, all of which are just really pretty astounding. And I think that people that can do what you do are amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Project Psi or not out of Chicago, but their remote viewers and psychics are very focused on taken and trafficked children. And they have, in a short period of time with very few viewers, brought home 144 children. So I think that your skills are just amazing. I love people that
Yeah.
do what you do.
Yeah. It kind of progressed slowly, because I have never been one of those people that was born or felt like I had these gifts or whatever you want to call them ever. And there's my best friend. You may have heard of her, Deborah Lynn Katz. She
Mm-hmm.
wrote 3 books on psychic development, and we grew up together. And we're best friends all throughout, high school and on. And at a certain point, when I was kind of going through separation and divorce, I decided to take a road trip with my kids over the summer. So we got in the car for 8 weeks, and we went all the way to the West Coast, all the way to the East Coast. And in that trip, I reconnected with Deborah. And she said to me, Michelle, you've always been very intuitive. You should take my class. And I thought, me? Like, what? Are you kidding? What are you talking about? You have to be born with that. And she said, no, everybody is intuitive. And it's kind of one of those things where you have to, put your attention to it and nurture it and be aware of it. And then there's like little techniques and things like that you can work on, and then just grow it and do it better. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I took her class, and I guess I call myself a skeptical believer, because I walk in very skeptical, and then it has to come to me to believe it. But I got to a point where I couldn't explain this anymore, because there are things that would happen where I would know something, and I'm not sure if you had this experience. Like, for me, if something comes to me and it comes like fast, the speed of light, and it's just, it, that is when you're the most psychic. Has that ever happened to you? Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Oh. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Yeah, I think, yeah. No, it's good. It's very interesting. Yeah. And I just, I think that, um, it just, I think the important point is that everybody has this ability. It's not, only gifted to certain people. I think it's just the amount of awareness. And if somebody wants to work on it, even, what you would think of a left brain person still, I'm programmers, for example, people that are programming computers, I really believe that they have to use intuition at some point when they're programming, and they're considered left brain, job, even in numbers, think about stocks and people that want to, uh, they want to, do the stock market or invest money. There is an element, right? There's an element that they definitely look at the statistics and all that. But I think that they're also, they'll say, because this is what they can handle. They'll say, what's your gut feeling? They won't say, what's your psychic? They'll use the term, what's your gut say? Well, that's really the same thing as saying, what's your, just tune in psychically. That it's the same thing. It's your gut reaction. And we find, well, I know we didn't start talking about remote viewing, but we do find that in the study of remote viewing that when you connect with what things feel like versus what you see, it's more accurate when you're connected to your senses and rather than your thoughts, because your thoughts can be deceiving. There's a lot of thoughts that are subjective and they're not always reliable, but what is reliable is how something feels, and everybody feels. So that's where your intuition comes from, or your psychic energy, whatever word you want to use for it. Right, right. Mhm. Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And yeah, and then bouncing around here back, to hypnosis. One of the things that we learn and teach in hypnosis is the power of our words. Just like I was, saying about, saying your gut versus psychic. If you say psychic to certain people, it's going to trigger a feeling that may be related to some, a lot of people that maybe have a very strong religious background, and they've been programmed to believe that that's, taboo, right? Yeah, we don't talk about that, or they have a fear around it. But then if you mean psychic, but you say, oh, your subconscious, just, what does your subconscious tell you? It's really, it's all about words, and words, they're very important. They're, how we communicate to people. And that's even going back to the first thing that we talked about, in terms of how the world is right now, is to be conscious of the words we use. And can I tell a little story about how this came to me? Okay. So, my father passed a few years ago, and we were lucky enough to be with him. And so he was in hospice, but at home. We were taking care of him at home. And I have a family that they, how can I say this? They humor me with all this stuff. They don't totally believe it, but okay, good. Then you know where I'm coming from. So, but sometimes they surprise me, I will have to say. So, my father, so it was, I guess, the ending, and I was in denial the whole time. And I was like to the point where I was like still monitoring the amount of time to give him medicine. I'm like, oh no, you can't give it to him yet. It has to be 4 hours. You're like, what's going to happen? He's going to die if, so I was just really in denial. And we called up the hospice guy, and he comes over, and he, looked at him. He's like, okay, he's in a coma. It might be a good time to say your goodbyes and this and that. And so my brother was there too. And he's like, yeah, Michelle, go do it. I'm like, all right, fine. So I said my goodbyes, and then, we were all sitting around, and my brother just abruptly went to bed. And I'm just like, that's weird. Like, we're all sitting here, like, hunkering down for the night, right? And he's like, good night, everyone. I'll see you in the morning. We're like, excuse me? What's happening here? So we're like, okay, maybe he knows something we don't know. I don't know. But we all kind of went to sleep. We were so tired. And we get up in the morning, and we're just sitting in the living room, and he's in the living room also, my dad. And my brother gets up, and he goes and takes a shower. I mean, it was so odd. And then he goes in the kitchen, and he makes a cup of coffee and a spoon dropped, and it was very loud. And I turned, and my dad's eyes opened up. And my brother somehow just came running out of the kitchen to my dad. And he said, some things to my dad. And then he waved at all of us, come, hurry up. And we all run, and we're standing around, the bed. And, we're all trying to say our last words, like, we love you, like everyone's like, you're the best dad ever. Oh, we love you. And my dad had a tear came out of his eye, and he smiled, and he said goodbye. And then he left. And I was like, wait, over time I thought about, oh wait, let me just finish before then. That night, or whatever. We had to talk to the funeral guy. I don't know the proper words for everybody, but the funeral dude
Right.
came over to our house, and my mom had to pick, all the things for the funeral. And he has a bill there, and he hands it over to my mom, and he goes, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. And literally all the lights in the whole house went out and then on again. Yeah. And I go, and of course I'm always joking. I said, oh, I guess my dad didn't like those prices. And, and so, that was kind of funny. But anyway, so, so I was thinking about a couple things, and if there's anybody out there, I would like to get some insights on this. Number one question is, how did my dad know when to say goodbye? Like that, like how did he said goodbye and then left? Like, I guess we can think like somebody said, say goodbye because you're going to leave now, or like, how did he know that exact moment to say goodbye and then leave? And then my next thought that I ruminated about is his choice in words. He said goodbye. And I'm like, he's never, ever in my whole existence ever said goodbye to me. He'd say, see you later, see ya, love ya. Never said goodbye, never said goodbye to anyone. And he would always teach us that you only say what you mean. And that in life, you only are given a certain amount of words. And he's always said, choose your words wisely. And that's why he said goodbye, because he meant goodbye. And it was like the biggest lesson to me. I'm like, that's right. Choose your words wisely. If you don't mean goodbye, don't say goodbye. And, and then I apply that to other parts of my life. But it was just a big, like, whoa for me, like, okay, so we have to really just in society, in life, in your personal life, is just, be careful what you say. In the law of attraction, whatever you say is what you get. The universe brings you more of. So if you say things, in your day and you say, I'm so tired, well, then the universe brings you more tired. So you need to speak the words like, oh, I'm energetic. I'm feeling good. I feel healthy. And,
absolutely. Yes.
Right? So that is that big lesson that I learned from there. But I just wonder, it's like, I just gotta know, like, how did he know to say goodbye when he said goodbye? Like, what happened? Well, so.
Do you think that maybe I'm going to share this? I don't always share this, but it's so similar, it's eerie.
Ooh.
Yeah, but my dad was suffering from Parkinsonian dementia and was having TIAs, and apparently had a big stroke because there was like an overnight shift. And my stepmother was very concerned and very upset. Took him to the hospital. They weren't going to treat anything, but wanted to put him in a psychiatric ward because there had been such a deterioration. I'm like, well, that does not sound like a good idea. Put him in a strange environment with people that are, not always safe. I think that's a great thing to do. But the gist of it was that he came home. An absolutely wonderful woman who was a friend of mine dropped everything to come and care for my dad. And that's what she does, and I don't see how she does it so well. But anyway, she had experience. And my stepmother continued to be in denial, and I was just kind of there hanging out, right? And I was seeing the deterioration and accepting it as it happened and just doing what he could do. And, like there was one instance when he was talking to me and he was holding my hand because he would always move, I said that he did physical therapy on an elbow injury that I had because he kept moving my arm, rocking my arm, and fixed my arm. But he was talking and said, I have Alzheimer's. I have this terrible disease. And I said, well, Dad, I think that that's not really what people think this is. And he just turned around, and Roy Orbison was singing Pretty Woman on a fundraiser for NPR. And so it was quite interesting. But I was like, well, this conversation's done. And as soon as the song stopped, he turned around and looked at me, and he was like, I don't remember things, and I'm losing more. And I just looked at him and I said, well, I'll just remember enough for both of us. And he was just, that'll be good. Yeah. And he was hanging out waiting on my sister to come, who didn't. And I went, and he was in a very bad place, physically and mentally. He was just kind of chilling. One thing I said to him was, do you see your dad? And he said, sweetheart, my dad is dead. I'm like, well, you're talking to somebody, And that afternoon, I had gone into his room and was holding his hand, and we were just hanging out. And he just kept looking at me, and I was like, Dad, I know. But she knows. I don't know why she's not coming. But if this gets too hard, it's okay just to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's not going to come here. And he said, well, he squeezed my hand. And I said, but you know what I do, right? And he just kind of, yeah, I know, kind of a look. And I said, if there's any way, could you just let me know you're okay? And he had not been dead 6 hours, and he manifested at my home in a method that was obviously him. And it was, but he knew he was waiting on her.
Mm-hmm.
And when he knew that she wasn't coming, he was able to go in peace. And he looked so peaceful. And, it's just a weird thing, but it was, he knew.
Yeah.
He knew that it was time.
Yeah. It puzzles me, because it's like, for us, I know I can look at the clock and I know it's time, or I have a feeling of hunger, but like with the death thing, I'm kind of like, what happened? What happened there that he knew to say goodbye? And then he, it's one thing, like, they say that saying goodbye is the longest conversation. You say goodbye to people and then you start talking more, but this was complete. This was, this ended. So it's fascinating. The whole thing. I should remote view it. That's what I should do. I didn't even think I should do that though. But yeah, I should remote view what happened in that moment.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't see why you wouldn't. That's something that I really believe, that while our gifts are to help other people, they are also to help us with our closures and with our experiences. And I think that matters so much. I'm also a firm believer, if you don't use them, you lose them. So,
right. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
But do you think that too?
If you don't use it, you lose it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people even say, in terms of remote viewing, that it's like a martial art. And, we practice, like, I'm obsessed. I practice every day. And I think that there are some people that don't think you can get better, but I disagree with that. I think you do get better. I think you get more familiar. I think you learn more so that you can do better. And, but it isn't, the thing is when you're working on things like this, it's not always reliable, because there are so many factors that play into this, which is one main thing is being human. Just being human is an issue, because we just want to know. We want certainty. We want to understand everything. We want everything to fit in a perfect box. And in remote viewing, you're kind of stepping out of that, and things don't necessarily make sense, because that's the nature of how this works. And so in order to be a good remote viewer, or, you have to really give up being parts of being human. So I know it's kind of strange, but that's how you are accurate.
That is kind of strange.
Yeah. So the remote viewing that I talk about is that the kind, because there's again, with words, there are certain kinds of remote viewing where people just tune in and they can describe a location. And that is remote viewing. But the kind of remote viewing that I do, I was taught by the ex-military. They started the Stargate program back in the 70s. And then in the 90s, it was declassified. And a lot of those guys taught people like myself. And I've been doing it for, I think, about 9 or 10 years now. And been working on a bunch of projects that may surprise you.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and what we do is we have paper. We actually have, we do it in a scientific way. So that means that we are blind. Sometimes we're blind to the people that hire us or the project manager that assigns it to us. And then we're also blind because we don't know what they want to know. They just give us a random number. And then we follow a protocol that we are taught, and then we just turn it in, and they give us feedback, and then we kind of go through the session, and that's pretty much how it works. So
that really is fascinating, Michele.
Yeah, it helps because one of the things that we really work a lot on are missing people or missing animals or missing items. It works very well for that. And I've worked on some cases with detectives where we were looking for missing people. And they basically just say, I have a missing person case. And they give me a number, and then I just kind of do a session about it. So, and then I hand it in, and the idea is to just be very specific about what we see or what we feel, and then it helps. So one of the cases that I worked on.
I'm going to interrupt you right there because we have to go to a break. And what a great place to come back, because this is fantastic. I'm enjoying this.
Good.
So everyone, we will be right back. Thank you so much for being here. See you in a sec.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson, Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama, and I am so glad y'all are here. We did have a bit of a paradigm shift, and that's okay because we are being joined tonight by Michele Freed, and I am one lucky host, I'll tell you that, because I'm having a great time. She is the founder and hypnotherapist at the Butterfly Effect Center. She is a remote viewer, which is where we are in our discussion now. She is a radio producer. I so miss having a producer. And she is one of the best people in this field. I think that she is somebody that I'm very lucky to know. And I'm glad y'all are getting to know her too. But, Michele, we were discussing your remote viewing. And we left at the beginning of a case because I wasn't going to miss it. But would you mind picking up for us?
Sure. So I got a call and basically they said, all right, we have a missing person case. And that's really, I didn't know if it was male, female. I didn't know where in the world it was. I didn't know anything. So, so they sent the number, random number, and I just sat down and did my session. And I perceived a male. And right at the onset, I unfortunately did not feel life in this subject. I call them subjects. Right. I was kind of in this bird's eye view sensing where I was, and it felt like a foresty area. I noticed that there was some kind of rundown building down a dirt path. There was water nearby. I saw this male with blood coming out of like his forehead, and there was a rock, like a big, huge boulder. He was kind of laying on the ground in a certain position, and there's boulder near him, and a bunch of trees and things like that. So I did my session. I'm giving a summary of the session. The session didn't kind of come out all beautiful like how I described it. It was kind of very chunky and bits and pieces in the session. But if you summarize, that's what it came to be. So it turns out that this ends up being a male on the West Coast who was a college student. This rundown building was actually a bar. He got drunk. He walked down this dirt trail, took out a boat, and the boat capsized, and he died of a head wound. Oh. So I was a little off because I did not perceive him in the water. I perceived him on land. But at least what the detectives were able to do is triangulate. So they kind of started with a rundown building where there was water and kind of the boulder or the forest or whatever. And what they do is they'll take those, they kind of map it out, and they find like, 3 things that look good, and they go to the area where they suspect it could be. And then they just look at a map, and then they put that together, and that's how they figure out, or they can kind of deduce where to look and search. So we don't, we are helpers. We're not actually we're helping them find these people. So yeah, that's how it could really come in handy. So it was an unfortunate case, but I really believe that it's so important for the family to know to know what happened, and anything we can do to, give them some peace. Not everybody can do that, but I just kind of told myself that it's important, and there are ways that we're taught how we detach from sessions so that we can be okay. So we're prepared for that.
I would think that would be the hardest part, because a lot of the time people who have these gifts are empaths as well, and the empathic side would just be a constant battle if you weren't able to learn some methodology for detachment, as you mentioned. I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, and I think detachment should be done anytime. I mean, I think it's so important, and I don't think people stress enough about it, that you should be even doing it when you're with people, like not doing psychic work, but just when you're with people. And, you bring back your own energy from something. We really don't need to be carrying other people's energy with us in our space. So we should always be, if I talk to my mom, it's not an insult to her. I love her. But when I hang up the phone, I imagine that we literally severed the connection, or people in your lives, when you kind of leave them, you just kind of have this, imagery that you're separated from them, and bring back your own energy. Like, they don't need your energy and you don't need theirs. So it's a great little tool.
That is a great tool. So how long did it take for you to develop that skill?
So I was trained with Joe McMoneagle, Lynn Buchanan, Russell Targ, and my favorite teacher, John Vivanco. And I learned several different methods over the years. So you'll sit and learn the class, you learn the protocol, but it's really about practice. So I have very good friends, and we're constantly pushing ourselves to practice. And along the way, we get lots of projects. We were actually hired, you won't even believe this, by Tom DeLonge. You know who that is, right? The UFO guy?
TTSA.
So, yes, yeah. So he hired us, and again, we were double blind because they didn't tell us it was Tom, because we start remote viewing aliens, right? So they just said, we have somebody that's hiring you to do a project, and we're like, okay, fine. We're kind of used to not knowing stuff, but it was weird because I did get some non-human subjects in my session. It was weird. So I was kind of like, what the heck is this session?
That would be disconcerting, though.
We do esoteric targets. Like, we've done Bigfoot. We do, is there a base on the moon? We do all sorts of, in fact, you may even be able to see me on an episode of Ancient Aliens. We were at ESETI Ranch, and we did
that place.
Yeah.
Yes.
We did, a session. I think the name of the episode is Transdimensionals. So that was really a fun project to do. So so there is just so much. And then there's a whole nother area that people are interested in, where it's a different kind of technique using remote viewing to predict a future outcome. So we did a scientific study where we used our dreams to predict a future outcome, and we associated it with wagering on sporting events. So how it worked was, we had a manager that set up the project. We had, I think, 5 viewers, and we did 50 trials. And the idea was that on Friday nights, we would set an intention to dream about a photo that will be shown to us after a game. And this photo would represent the team that won. And so then we would do the session, make a prediction, and then they would wager on it. The game's played, and then they would send the photo back to us, and then, finishing up the loop. So we did 50 trials, and I think we had like a 62% hit rate. And
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and that paper is published in the Journal of Psychical Research. So we were really excited about that. So, but yeah, there's just people are using remote viewing Tibet. They're using it to big corporations hire us to help them with investments and yeah, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it just never ends. So,
but
and
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's just really cool. There's also healing. We use it for healing or identifying people or locating some kind of physical condition that people have. And I do teach a class. So if anybody is interested.
I'm interested.
Okay, that would be fun.
That would be interesting.
We could have like a fun class. It would be really fun. I was going to start August 1st, but it just things got so busy for me. So I think I'm going to start the next class in September. So I usually do it on Saturday mornings between 10 and 12 Pacific time. And it's a 6-week course. And if you want more information, it's on butterflyeffectscenter.com. And the remote viewing page will give you all the details. I didn't change the date yet, but it still tells you what you learn. And I am looking for a really good team so that we could, make a little mama needs a new pair of shoes bunny.
Yes.
To, help, do projects where they pay us. So I'm always looking for a fantastic, big, great team. So I like, teaching to find those people.
Is it difficult to find people who, A, are interested in doing this, and B, have the skill sets necessary?
People, when you tell them about the possibilities, I haven't heard anybody that are not interested. Everybody is like, wow, that sounds cool. Can I do that? That's kind of the reaction. Would I be able to do it? And of course I say, of course, if you want to, yes. There are, people that I think the hardest part of this is being committed and practicing. It's kind of one of those things where you do need to practice.
Where the homework matters.
The homework does matter.
Yes,
it is. It's like
homework.
The Karate Kid. Wash on, wash off, wash on. Oh, wax on, wax off, wax on. Yeah.
There you go.
I know something. It began with a W.
You were close. You were all over that.
Oh my God.
I just love this. I'm having so much fun. And thank you so much for being here because this is fun.
This is fun.
Well,
yeah.
It's, we have never gotten to really chat and so get to know each other other than I know some of what you do, and I like your work, and it's just great, and I really admire you because I'm producing here, and I never started out to be a producer. I'm a host. And
right.
My former network producer disappeared. And
like literally?
Yes.
Should I remote view it?
No, he's back, but he said that he was going into rehab for 600 days and that we weren't going to be doing any more live shows. And he took the passwords that I had paid for with him. And I was interviewing George Norrie the next night. So,
oh, no.
Yeah, baby.
Oh.
So it was trial by fire. I had no stingers, no music, no anything except George.
Aww.
And he called in, and it was terrible. I was so tense, and he was so gracious, and he was helping me along because, he knew I was tense. I mean, the biggest interview that I had ever done. And I know he had me on with him, and I really admired him. And so I reached out and said, would he be interested in coming on with me? And he did. So when I saw him at Contact in the Desert a little bit later, I said, "I'm so sorry."
Aw.
I know that wasn't the level of professionalism you expected. And he was like, "You were excellent."
Aw,
and for
that's
that, I
sweet.
love you.
Aw, yeah. Well, that's the thing is that, people are, they're when they're open, they understand. They understand the situation, and, you tolerate it, you accept it, definitely.
Well, he was perfect.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
he
good. I'm
really
glad
was.
it turned out.
Me too. But we have to take our top of the hour break. And if you're listening, this is a great time to go and fill up whatever chalice you're using with what your choice is. Maybe do a few tumbles around the room, loosen up. We'll be back. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you on the flip side.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from LAist Studios, presenting California Love, a new audio memoir about LA. Host Walter Thompson Hernandez shares stories of people and communities of Los Angeles that hardly get recognized. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Live from NPR News, I'm Barbara Klein. Supplemental jobless assistance for millions of Americans during the coronavirus pandemic remains uncertain after lengthy talks yesterday between Trump administration officials and congressional Democratic leaders. Participants said some progress was made, but they fanned out on the Sunday talk shows today, reiterating their positions. Here's Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on ABC's This Week.
We have to be careful about not piling on enormous amounts of debt for future generations. So the president's determined to spend what we need to spend, and we're acting very quickly now.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says workers should be the priority.
They're subjecting somebody who gets $600 to scrutiny that they won't subject some of the people who are getting millions of dollars in the PPP. So this is about putting workers first.
Mnuchin is pushing for a one-week extension of the extra $600 in jobless benefits that expired Friday. Democrats call it a political stunt. Tropical storm Isaias is slowly moving up Florida's east central shore. NPR's Huo Jingnan has the latest.
Isaias is whipping up winds up to 65 miles an hour and is forecasted to bring rainfall from Florida to New England in the coming week. The National Hurricane Center is watching for possible storm surge from 2 to 4 feet in South Carolina and North Carolina. The NHC is also warning of flooding due to rainfall, and Florida's governor has warned of power outages due to falling trees and branches. The storm continues to bring heavy wind and rain to northwestern Bahamas. Huo Jingnan, NPR News.
The U.S. military has ended a search for 7 Marines and a sailor. Their small craft sunk off the California coast Thursday. Steve Walsh of member station KPPS reports.
The Navy had been searching since Thursday evening after the 26-ton amphibious assault vehicle sank quickly in sight of other vehicles during an exercise in the waters off of San Clemente Island. 8 Marines were recovered quickly, including a Marine who died, and 2 others still remain in critical condition. After searching 1,000 nautical square miles, the Navy called the search for the remaining 8 overnight. Unmanned vehicles will search for the landing craft, which is believed to have sunk in several hundred feet of water. The head of the Marines, David Berger, ordered a temporary halt to all water operations for the aging AAV. For NPR News, I'm Steve Walsh in San Diego.
NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken safely returned to Earth this afternoon, splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico.
Welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
They conclude the first manned mission of a privately built capsule, SpaceX's Crew Dragon. This is NPR. White House Coronavirus Task Force Coordinator Dr. Deborah Burke says the U.S. is in a new phase of the coronavirus outbreak. She says infections are extraordinarily widespread in rural areas as well as cities. According to the latest data, more than 4.6 million people in the U.S. are infected, and more than 154,000 people have died. Leaders at a summer camp in North Georgia are apologizing after a wave of coronavirus infections there. Georgia was one of the first states to reopen during the pandemic. Roxanne Scott of member station WABE reports.
In June, after a teenage counselor got sick, the virus quickly spread throughout Camp High Harbor. The overnight camp is run by the YMCA of Metropolitan Atlanta. High Harbor shut down shortly after, but by then more than 260 people had gotten infected. The teenager who first tested positive provided a negative test and no symptoms when first arriving. All campers were screened. Though staff were required to wear masks, children were not. A CDC report found that there was poor ventilation. For NPR News, I'm Roxanne Scott in Atlanta.
In Southern California, fire crews are battling a wildfire northwest of Palm Springs that's already burned more than 23 square miles. It's 0% contained. Thousands of homes are threatened, and some 8,000 people have been ordered to evacuate. I'm Barbara Klein, NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back for the second hour of Fate Mag Radio. I am so glad you're joining us because we have had the best possible outcome from a shift in the dynamic. I know that I advertised a guest, but we have someone different, and I am having the best time. I am talking with Michele Freed, who is just really a wonderful person. She is a remote viewer. She is a hypnotherapist with the Butterfly Effect Center. She is a radio producer at the Midnight Society radio show. And not only is she a hypnotist with the Butterfly Effect Center, she's the founder. So she's also all kinds of other things, as we're learning tonight, and I am having a ball. So if you have any questions, please do put them in chat, because she is really fun and interesting. And Michele, I never believe in circumstances being a coincidence. So this was just destined to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was a little, uptight. Excuse me. So that absolutely went down the wrong way.
Oh, no.
That's okay. I am just really thrilled to be talking with you. Thank you for doing it. And you did it on the fly, and it was so smooth. You were so smooth. Thank you.
Oh, really? Well, you made it easy then. I was kind of like, all right, take deep breaths, just focus, calm down. Yeah. It's
well, I was saying the same thing, so maybe we were just reinforcing each other.
Yeah, for sure we were.
But shifts in the dynamic sometimes work out well. So I think this did, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
I know that when we were going to break, we were mid-flow, and quite frankly, I am just, if you want to continue where we were there, or where do you want to go?
I don't even remember where we were, to be honest.
Well, okay.
Yeah, anything. I think, was I talking about my class? I think I had just finished.
We had talked about that, and that's going to be 10 to 12 on Sundays. No, Saturdays.
It's 6. Yeah, Saturdays from 10 to 12, 6 courses, 6 classes, and I'm looking for a team. I think that's what I was kind of discussing.
Yes.
So
kind of emphasizing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that people can do it, even if they don't know that they can.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of research when they put together the team back in the 70s, Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff were the scientists, and they found one of the best psychics named Ingo Swann, and he
is brilliant.
Yeah, and so the three of them kind of put together this protocol of how to remote view. And in their process, they were always experimenting, and, even kind of knowing them now, everything turns out, oh, we should do an experiment. Like anything you say, it's like, oh, we should test that. Oh, it's this mind of these kinds of people that are, scientific mentality. They just like, oh, we should try this. We should try that. So one of the things is they took, I can't remember her name, but it's pretty famous. But I think she was a photographer, and they just, Ingo's like, hey, let's just see if she could do it. And it turned out that she was an incredible remote viewer, and they didn't expect it because she was just like an everyday person or whatever. And she was able to do it. So they kind of realized that, really, if people are taught, this protocol, they can follow the steps and get information. And the other thing that I like to point out, a lot of people are psychic and they get bombarded with information. Like they could be like driving the car and stuff comes in. Remote viewing is a discipline where you can filter out when you want to be psychic and when you don't want it. You don't have to live your whole life with this spontaneous information coming in and overwhelming you, or if you just don't want this information, it'll teach you how to kind of turn it on and turn it off. And I think for a lot of people, it will help them ground them and function better in life, especially people that have their aperture wide open and they're getting all this information, psychic information. And, they use a word, again with the words, but they call themselves sensitive. I'm a sensitive person. Well, It doesn't have to be that way, because you can be trained to turn it on and turn it off. And I like knowing that I have power over it. I like to be an empowered person. I don't like things happening and without my control and, whatever. So that is another advantage to learning remote viewing in this process. And then also the idea that it's very scientifically based. It is, I guess, kind of woo-woo what they say, but I think that it's, more scientists will, for example, I've actually had a couple professors in a university hire me to do work for them. Authors of some books, like legitimate, not that we're not legitimate, but like people you wouldn't expect be open to this, especially in the academia world, and they are. And they were willing to put money on it. So, so it's definitely something that is useful even in your everyday life. My mom once called me. My mom once called me, kind of teasing me, and she goes, "Michelle, I misplaced the can opener. Can you tell me where it is?" I'm like, thanks.
So funny.
Yeah.
No, I laugh because I have friends that are very, very good and trained at this. And the day of my daughter's wedding, I was clearing off a counter and I put some Jimmy Buffett tickets up, and I put them up in a cabinet. I know I did. I know where I put them. And they were gone. One of them was not mine. And so I put the word out to 2 or 3 different people, and I said, look, I need help. I'm going to owe somebody like $200 and I'll have to buy another ticket. So, for me. And every one of them saw me putting the tickets up in the cabinet and nothing after that. And I was like, what does that even mean? And one of them sent me a message back and said, you have house elves. You're going to have to fix that. I was like, well, that's mean of them. They they can't be here if they're going to be like that.
Oh my
But,
gosh,
yeah.
I love it.
But I mean, I was kind of kidding, but I also was kind of like, I really need those.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they were so great, though. They were hilarious to a T.
yeah, definitely. I get it. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think that there, other things we work on, well, we call it remote influencing, but sometimes that makes people think like you can influence people to do bad things. But it's also how I think of it is we use it for healing, because people will call us up and, they have some kind of physical condition or discomfort or something, and they want to find the origin of it. And so we kind of have a technique for that too. And we can, help people and you move in a direction you never thought you would be moving in. So that's pretty cool too. So you can end up thinking my knee hurts, but it turns out it's something to do with something that happened when you were a child, and you're having an emotional block in your knee or something like that, because there's such a strong connection to how we feel, our feelings and our health. I kind of explain it like this. If we imagine that our brain is split into three sections, you have your conscious, and that's the part where you're thinking, you're analyzing, all that. All that analytical part is in the conscious. Then you have your subconscious. Normal scientists, they just call it the unconscious. But in hypnotherapy, we kind of split consciousness into a subconscious and unconscious. So the subconscious, we separate saying, this is permanent memory. This is where all your emotions are connected. So any word that you say or think or feel is stored in there, and it's attached to an emotion. So, for example, I'll ask everybody who's listening to feel sorry. And Kat, you tell me what that feels like. Can you describe that feeling to me when you feel sorry?
Like for something I've done?
Yeah, you're in a situation. Recall the last time you felt sorry and describe what it felt like.
Well, it feels devastating because I actually hurt someone that matters very much to me and didn't realize it.
Okay, and then where? Oh,
that's
sorry.
Awful. That's okay.
Yeah, and where in your body do you feel that sorry?
I feel it in my chest in the upper left, and I feel it in my eyes.
Oh, okay. So if we replace that word sorry with the word apologize to somebody, do you notice a difference between feeling sorry and the feeling you get from the word apologize?
I do. It feels like the center of my chest opens.
Right. So a lot of people, when they walk, so this is a connection to how your body responds to how you feel. Do you get that? So
I do. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I noticed a lot of, I worked with a lot of high school. I was a director of musical theaters in, high schools. And I noticed, the girls especially would constantly, I'm sorry. And their physical bodies are like curled up and they're very
yes.
And I'm like, well, no wonder why, you walk around with, your shoulders and your neck is tense, and because your body is responding to that feeling. It's acting. So that's what the unconscious is. It's that part that is responding to the emotion. So that's why we separate subconscious and unconscious. And so why did I even start talking about this? But
because it was all part of the various levels of conscious.
Right. Yeah, that. But yeah, so basically that is how I look at how we respond in the world, and we use this in hypnosis because when we're talking to clients, we want them to be aware of this power we have, and that's how we can control it, by being aware of it. You know, our physical, when you get a cold, people do say, oh, I have a cold because I'm so stressed. It brought my immune system down. All those things are really, they're based on emotions. Why does a COVID, well, I don't know if we can even prove this, but a germ, let's just say a germ, two people in the same place, one person got the cold and the other person didn't. How could that, how did that happen? Well, I believe that it's because maybe one person, had maybe a better disposition. Their emotions were, less stress or whatever. And the other person was probably immune system brought down from so much stress, and they were vulnerable to get this virus or bacteria or whatever. So I think that, that's another thing with people dealing with fear for COVID. That's another thing, is to really start, reducing stress. We can't get rid of stress completely, but reducing and doing things throughout the day to reduce the stress is going to, if you do get COVID, you will be able to fight it because you're healthy and you see yourself as healthy. So, so that's kind of, I feel, how we wrap everything up and put it all together.
I think that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
But we have to take a little break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. Thank y'all for being here, and we'll catch you in just a moment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers. on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. We are the voice of Fate Magazine. And if you have had a chance yet, we have a new edition out. We also have some packages for sale. And the way they put these together amazes me. Phyllis is brilliant. But we also have T-shirts, and we have never had T-shirts in the whole time I've been affiliated with Fate. So I am so excited about that because I see everybody else's when I go to conferences, and now we have them too. That is way, way cool. So check out fatemag.com and get you one. And check out the other stuff too, because really our archives are amazing. I don't know how Phyllis keeps up with that, but I had a guest on, and Michelle, you'll appreciate this. I had a guest on, and she was like, I submitted to Fate, but it was never, it was never printed, and I never heard back, and I was like, but that's a great story. So I said something to Phyllis later, and she said, we did print that. Let me get her snail mail. And so she sent her 2 copies, one for her and one to do whatever with. So, she knew immediately what edition it was even. So
that's great.
It is great. But anyway, little business there. But I thought that's one of the reasons I like who I work for so much. It's fun. They're fun.
It's important.
Yes, and they're ethical and honest and very with it. It's a good thing. But I was just so fascinated when we were speaking, and you had said something about if you're not listening to what the universe is trying to get to you, right? Mm-hmm. That it will get your attention one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And I think I can vouch for that, but I am really surprised because I know that I'm hard-headed, but I don't know that everybody is to that extent. I just get caught up in the moment, but I do listen now. I do listen now, and I do acknowledge and do what I'm supposed to do. The messages are much clearer now that I'm focused better.
Yeah, I think that's I was just talking about this to my brother the other day about being, I guess you could say, being aware all the time, because a lot of things are getting thrown at you, information and opportunities and things like that. And if you're not aware of what's going on, you miss them or dismiss them. So it's important to, when you're in, being in an environment and then also being aware of what's going on. A lot of people just walk through life on automatic pilot. They get up, they have their routine, they exercise, they go eat breakfast, they go to work, come home, do the lawn, whatever it is. Yes. And throughout the day, and they'll say, well, my life has nothing, or I can't find a job, or I this, or da-da-da. But opportunities are constantly coming in, and you have to see them. And if you're focused on something else, and this is also hypnotic, whatever you're focused on is what your attention is on, that you won't see anything else going on, because it's like you're being hypnotized by whatever you're being focusing on.
That is true. I have seen that. I've experienced that.
Right. So that works for if you're being hypnotized, then we want that to happen. But if you're in your everyday life, you don't want to be hypnotized, in your everyday life, even though hypnosis is a natural function, but sometimes you have to make an effort to not be hypnotized. You have to be aware of what's going on around you and what's, coming your way. So, I think.
Would that be where the third level of consciousness would be?
What do you mean?
When we were talking about...
Oh, unconscious?
Yeah.
You mean the subconscious, the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious?
Yes. Would that be the unconscious?
The unconscious is really your connection with the body. That's the unconscious. So the unconscious part is responsible for your heart beating. It's the automatic part. And so your body reacts based on what emotion you have in your subconscious.
Okay.
So it's kind of, if you're feeling down or whatever, then your body's going to react to those emotions.
Gotcha.
And then you're going to start degrading in health for that. If but back to, because you brought up the other idea of the law of attraction. When we say anything after I am, it's almost like you're talking to the universe. And I am is kind of getting, God or the source or whatever word we want to use. It's getting its attention, the attention. And so whatever you say after the words I am is what the universe wants to bring you more of. Okay, so one example of this is my daughter. They love me because I'm constantly I'm like talking like this all the time, and they're like, again, Mom. But it's important. So we're in the car. I drop her off her carpool, or we're in the car and I'm dropping her off her carpool, and she's like, I'm so stupid. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, you want to be stupid? Yeah, the universe is going to bring you more stupid. And I'm like, do you want to be stupid? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, what do you desire? What do you want? She goes, well, I want to be smart. I want to be intelligent. I said, well, then that's what you say. You say, I am smart. I am intelligent, because it's going to bring more to you, focusing on that, because our subconscious protects what's familiar. So this is a challenge when people want to lose weight. And first of all, notice what I said, lose weight. We say that all the time. Mm-hmm. So the word lose, the subconscious goes, huh? What? Lose? I don't want to lose something. What, are you kidding? I don't want to lose anything. It's a fear. So it wants to protect, even though things that you have in your life are unhealthy for you. The subconscious doesn't know that. It doesn't analyze. So it knows, well, this is what I know. This is what I'm familiar. So this weight, this extra weight on me, I don't want to get rid of it, because that's what I know. That's what I'm familiar with. So you have to work double hard to reprogram your brain to understand that that is not familiar, and then a new behavior that you want, that's the familiar, and this other thing is unfamiliar. So you have to kind of reverse that. And that's what hypnosis does, is it trains you or reprograms you to take what's familiar and kind of turn it around and make that unfamiliar. So, smoking is familiar, even though it's not healthy. Again, the subconscious doesn't understand it's not healthy. It just knows I like it, it's familiar, it's what I'm used to. Also, unfortunately, people in abusive, situations, it's the same thing, because people wonder, well, why are they still in there? Well, because the subconscious knows that that's familiar, even though it's not healthy, it's familiar, and the subconscious holds that like it's nothing. I mean, like everything in the world, it wants to keep that what's familiar. So, that's really kind of how the process works, is recreating what's familiar. Does that make sense? I don't know if
it does, but it doesn't seem like it could be that simple. And it doesn't really sound simple, but it is.
Right. It is simple. It's a choice. It's kind of, if you're listening to, a podcast, and you want to listen to another podcast, what do? You just turn the switch. That's really all this is. You just have to turn the switch. It's really that easy. So the hard part is the motivation. It's, that's what's the hard, is to make a commitment. You have to, because your subconscious is fighting against that. It's like kind of this, you have to kind of win over. And once you do, and that's why they say 2 weeks starts a new habit. Yes. And if you can do something, if you can get through that 2 weeks, then it'll be very flawless or flowing nicely. And you'll see that you made a big change. So, it works like that. Not to minimize
really awesome.
it. Well, to minimize it, but
it is, because I can be highly motivated for the right stuff, but I decided I was tired of not feeling great, so I joined a gym that was doing pay $20, lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks, and if you don't, then we'll do whatever, and if you do, we'll give it back to you. It was so motivating. I was at that gym every time that I was supposed to be, which is so rare. And because it was fun too, because there was a camaraderie and everyone being there to shift their mindset. And and I missed it when it was over. But we already had a gym membership, and I couldn't justify paying their gym fees on top of the others. But it is really amazing how you can see I can see that mindset was what motivated me to be there. And it got addictive. The workouts got addictive. I still love working out. I just am not quite to where I can fully yet. It's just so much fun.
Right. And
I never thought I would say that.
I know. Well, it became familiar,
Did.
and think about, so you have you have this idea of how this is working. And think about, we're hypnotized by commercials, because the commercials are talking to your fear, three things, the fear of security, the fear of reproducing yourself, or reproducing, and the last one is belonging. And if you analyze commercials, you'll see who they're talking, which part are they talking, and sometimes they're talking to all of them, especially when they're having those pharmaceutical commercials, where they're literally building up that fear and going, well, just take the pill, because we'll take that away from you. And that's really how it works. And then we get suckered in, because that's exactly our subconscious, doesn't want to have, they're afraid of these things. And then they're like, well, we'll take that away for you. Just take this little pill. Oh, really? All I have to do is take the pill? Okay, I'm sold. So it works like that. It's simple and complicated all at the same time, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But you know that it works, because with what an ad costs, just a television ad, standard television ad, not even a Super Bowl, those people are putting bank into counting on this altering your mindset. The psychology of that is intense. So I think that's pretty much a given to recognize. And people are always like, well, they can't do that to me. I can't be manipulated. Well, you are every day.
Right.
I mean, I say that
every day.
I say that. Well, it won't get to me. I'm knowledgeable. I'm aware. Not so much.
Right. It's tricky. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think, just being aware of, again, just pulling it back to yourself and making sure, because that's the only power we have is over ourselves, and we can't change other people, but we can change ourselves, and changing the way we think and our outlook, that's the first step, is in making positive changes. And you know, and don't even get me started on manifesting, because that's all related to the way you speak. And because in the idea of manifesting or intention, it's all about your words. You have to speak specifically to what you desire. And people kind of miss that idea. You know, that old joke where they say, oh, I manifested $1 million. Well, then they got a million, you know, deer bucks in their backyard. You have to be specific that you want, you know, dollars, and then you don't want to also put a limitation on it. You want to say or more. You know, I see myself. That's kind of how you want to say it. I see myself with $1 million or more. And you also don't want to put a limitation on how you get that money. You know, you may think that the normal way is I'm going to work or I'm going to win the lottery, but you have no idea how that money can come to you. So it's really about the words. It's about, you know, saying, and we also use that same concept in remote viewing. It's very important that when we have the secret question, we call it the secret question, which is what the remote viewer is viewing. That's what they do not see. And it's written in secret and then assigned a random number. That question has to be written because you're talking in the language of subconscious. And so it has to be precise. So, for example, I'll give you an example. One, if you're looking for a missing person, one question would be, describe the physical condition of so-and-so, or describe the current location of so-and-so. Those are very precise questions, and that's what you want the viewer to be doing the session on. You don't want to have all these other kind of fluffy words in there or things that can put you off course and in a different direction.
That is so... I can totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you're not direct, it's kind of, it's just not going to have a straight path. We have to take a break. I am so sorry. But we will be right back. And everyone, y'all come back too, because this is just amazing. I am having the best time. I hope y'all are too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back for the final segment of Fate Mag Radio. I am your host, Kat Hobson, and I am so glad you're here because this has been a fantastic show, and I'm so glad that things worked out so that this happened. It was completely unplanned. It's been brilliant, and my guest is Michele Freed, who is just fantastic. So if you have any questions, please do get them in one of our chat rooms. We are in Spreaker on live chat, and we are also at WBHM-DB.com with live chat as well. And that chat feeds to fatemag.com. So you can go all over the place and pick us up right now. And if you miss something, no worries. We are on iHeart, Spotify, Deezer, just about any place you want to look. It's all posted. So if you miss something, no worries, you can go and get it. Michele, I am really enjoying this conversation. Some of the things that we've been talking about, I have seen happen, although I didn't know the verbiage for it. And I know that since I have just decided to, be a suck it up and go get 'em kind of a person, my attitude is better. I don't take any kind of, I do take a muscle relaxer. I don't take any kind of pain medicine that's narcotic. Mm-hmm. And I am not going to. And I'm just so thrilled because since I started making these decisions on helping my healing really is being helped. So, yeah, it sounds like manifesting the same thing. And you'll probably find it funny that I close every show with a discussion as we're going out, being the change you want to see, because we can manifest that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people have healed themselves just by, I see myself as healthy, or the attitude that, my body is doing what it, exactly what it's designed to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I tell my kids, if you have a headache or something hurts you, or even a fever, it's not something to be scared about. It's your body telling you there's something wrong, and it's like going, yoo-hoo, pay attention to me, like that. Like I mentioned earlier about tapping on the door and then knocking, and then to the point where you have to listen and the door gets knocked down to get your attention. So your body is constantly letting you know that you need to give something attention. And that's really, so it's a good thing. A lot of people want to resist the pain, and that is our natural reaction. But by allowing the pain to come and then releasing it, it's really just telling you there's something off here and you need to give something attention. And that's really all it is. And when you understand that, you can deal with it better.
Yes. I didn't even know some of that was what was going on. I just knew that I was tired of being tired. And
right.
It was, I was tired of hurting. I was tired of being tired. I was tired of feeling damaged, because I did feel damaged. Mm-hmm. And, now I don't. Now I am coping with it. I am, the only thing I will do are the muscle relaxers, because it helps me with the physical therapy. And it still needs to be worked. I mean, that's part of it. Mm-hmm. So to be able to do that, I do use those, but they don't do any kind of mind altering.
Yeah. Did you ever have a kid that was like, mommy, 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 and they're like really annoying? They're like pulling on
Yes.
your shirt, like mommy, mommy, mommy. So that's really what this is. It's just this nagging because it needs attention. And then once you give your kid attention, then they are quiet. They stop calling your name until something comes up again.
Yes.
So that's really the same thing in our bodies, that the pain, God created us this way. And so everything about pain or discomfort, or any kind of disease or any even horrible things are ways that we're being, nagged to pay attention to whatever it is and give it some love and attention. That's it. And you'll see that the more you do that, giving, self-love, you're going to start feeling better. And it's instantaneous.
It is. And what's tragic is that society teaches that, love everybody else, but self-love is not really something that we're up with. So, which is a tragedy too. But why do you think that this stuff gets kind of discounted? Do you think it's because the medical fields, or really society as a whole depends on us depending on other things? Because it's almost a fight.
It is. I do think about that a little bit, like why, and I think it's because taking a pill is so easy and fast. A lot of these things take a little bit of an effort. It takes attention. It takes longer, but it's healthier. We were designed to do that. We were designed, ultimately, and we have all the tools to handle all these things. And there are times where definitely I'm not against medicine, at all. I mean, there are times where that
works hand in hand.
Right.
Or it
but
can
I think,
work hand in hand.
Exactly. I think that if you can do some of these holistic things along with medicine, then you don't have to take as much medicine.
Yes.
So I think that a balance is what's important. And again, I think it has a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, and they're talking to your fear, and they're telling you, just take this little pill. Your body tells you don't eat hot dogs. You get indigestion, don't eat a hot dog, or don't eat whatever your body is telling you. It's saying, I'm not supposed to be eating this. It's nagging you, and you're ignoring it because it tastes so good in the mouth. And then the pharmaceuticals come and say, well, just take this pill and then you can eat the hot dog or whatever it is. But your body is telling you, and then we just don't listen. And why? You could just take a real quick pill and then you feel better. But if we really want to be true to ourselves, and then we do have to listen to what our body's telling us. And it might save a lot of money if we're then buying these pills.
Well, I'm very fortunate because my primary doctor she's an MD, but she's also a holistic medicine doctor. And that has really been beneficial for me. When I fell, I did not go to her because I couldn't. And when I finally found her, got to her, she was like, oh my gosh, well, here. And she gave me an herbal supplement to help with circulation because I was worried about my legs, right?
Okay, right.
And so I was very fortunate because I had a doctor who was open to these ideas and who actually promotes them more than I was believing in them at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hard to find.
Right. It's true. It is. There's also, fear. The other thing, if you want to go on to that, is trusting yourself. The doctors only know what they know, but we're programmed to think they're the experts in
I know,
us.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're not. I mean,
right.
They're not. They just went to study something different than we did. And yet it's hard to get there but there's an awful lot of them. And I was lucky that I grew up around some medical people. So I know they're not God.
Right. And I was also lucky when the pediatrician would always say, "Hey, Mom, what do you think, is wrong with your kid or whatever?" That they always asked me my intuition, what do I think? And that's a true, like, I remember my parents listened to every single thing the doctor said. Whether it went against what they felt or whatever, they thought the doctor's right, you do what the doctor said. But I went through a whole period of time with one of my kids, a year of test after test after this, and it was like going through the rabbit hole like crazy. Yes. And one day I just went, "Stop!" And I just stopped it because I'm like, I don't care. There's nothing wrong with my kid, and I'm done. And I was brought up to never do that. The doctor knows, but I was screaming inside, like, "Stop this!" And he's fine. He's fine.
There you go.
So yeah, definitely. So,
it really is funny how conditioned we are. I had an experience with a pediatrician also, and he was just so laid back, and he was just like, "Well, you're around them all the time. Is this normal?" I was like, nothing about my kids is normal, so that was kind of a fun thing because he knew that was true.
Right.
So what do you think is, with all of the turmoil and the strife and I equate it to Ghostbusters too, where all the stuff is moving around under New York City and everybody's getting ill and fussy and things of that nature. There's a lot of purposeful negative energy being put out right now. And what is the best way to combat that if you start feeling overwhelmed?
Well, I think what I tell my kids when they get in that feeling is to pull yourself back to now, focusing on, I'm safe now, I'm okay now, I have food in the cabinet, I have, right in this very moment, I'm okay. And that really brings you back. I think there's a famous saying, the past is gone, the future hasn't happened yet, and right now I'm free of both. And I think saying that as a mantra is very helpful because, like we started, I don't feel like one person can change the whole world, but they can change their world. You only have power over yourself, and keeping yourself healthy and strong, making good decisions, understanding, watching how you speak, choosing your words wisely, noticing if you're starting to feel defensive, pull yourself back. A very good friend of mine came up with this concept of whenever you have a situation, imagine yourself of the 2.0 version of yourself, like the master, and ask the question, how would Michelle 2.0 respond to this situation? And then I kind of go into my, Confucius or my wise Yoda. And I'm thinking, okay, what would Yoda Michelle do? And it's always this kind of amazing, let it go. It's not such a big deal. Like all those kinds of things pop up, and I can calm myself down. And I don't get defensive. I realize maybe I'm assuming things, and that's always getting you into trouble when you're assuming. So check things out. So my 2.0 version of myself is so wise. I love that one.
I understand, right? Before we go, I have a question for you that's out of chat. And most of them have been just following the flow of our conversation, which I think is great. Intuitiveness helps sometimes. But this one is from a mom who says it's a huge issue with CPS being called if a parent does not agree with or do what a doctor says. now.
Right.
And she was curious, do you do any work with kids on the autism spectrum?
I guess I do. And when you say work, what do you mean work? Like work
I'm
with?
not sure. But she's
okay.
listening, so she will put this in the.
Okay.
So if you can be a little bit more specific, I would think that she would mean maybe energy work or something to give them a soothing practice, or because I know that sometimes their behavior can be modified by redirecting to something they find soothing.
Yeah, I think there's so many studies on autism. I know they're doing some really brilliant work in Israel. Actually, there's these schools there. It's a very because I don't know how you feel, but these kinds of situations, autism, I feel is a connection where they kind of bypass the material world. They just kind of pass right through, and they're like in the spiritual realm, and they kind of live in that place.
Well, that's what I would agree with that. I haven't heard it phrased that way. She said with hypnosis or, yes, help with behavior, communicating is a difficult thing for them as well.
Right. Hypnosis, I don't think hypnosis for autism would be useful because, they're already in a trance state.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to work with, drug people, people on drugs or things because they're all, or even young children under the age of 6 are already in a trance state. We can maybe put powers of suggestion in there because they're already in a trance state. So, for example, a little cute tip for moms or parents, whatever, when you want to get your kids to do something, this is a perfect how you could do it. It's like on the way to the refrigerator to get your drink, take out the garbage. It works every time. On your way to the sink, washing your hands, clean out the dishwasher. It's a hypnotic suggestion, and you're hypnotizing your kid, and it feels so good because you're like, whoa, that's so great. They don't even realize that you did it. Yeah. It's just like, they just do it and they don't know how that happens. So, but yeah, I think for, situations where, people are already like Alzheimer's and, dementia, any of those that hypnosis isn't very useful, because they're already in a trance state. And, I think there are some hypnotists that can work with them, but the average, I don't think, really would work.
That's interesting. She's, I'm going to assume it's okay to share this since it's in chat, but she has 3 on spectrum, and her 14-year-old gets very emotional, and she's really struggling to get him to do daily tasks that he needs to do to be able to live.
Right.
And
so, yeah, that, I think, I know this sounds crazy, but, meditation, teaching them to, have these tools to know when, it's setting triggers. So when making them aware of, because right before they're going to burst, they have to get familiar with that little trigger, that click, or that little and once they start getting familiar of what that is, you tell them to take their deep breaths, and you teach them, inhale through your nose for the count of 4, you hold it for 4, and then you exhale for 4. That is, you start training them by, the best way to do it would be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like before you eat your breakfast, do this, 3 times before you eat your lunch, before you eat your dinner, before you go to bed. And what you want to do is train them when they're not in an event. Train them when things are calm, so that in the moment of an event, then they'll have the tool to pull out. So I use this method on my son who got migraines since he was 2 years old. And we worked with him. We did biofeedback, but we also taught him how to do these breathing techniques. And so when he gets his migraine, he has learned that he can't even describe it, but he knows he's going to get a headache. And so he's been trained to feel that, and then he knows, okay, this is what I do when the headache's going to come. So that's kind of what I would suggest in that case.
This sounds like great advice to me. So I think that's going to probably be a help. And we're out of time. But I have had she says she will try that with them for sure.
Okay, and she can contact me anytime, and I'd be happy to discuss more details.
Okay, I will make sure that she has your information.
Okay.
But she's really pretty cool. But with that being said, thank you. Thank you for leaping to the fore and coming and rescuing. Yeah, I actually don't mind doing solo shows. I did one on Paranormal Experienced a couple of weeks ago, but I was ready, and I hate when there's communication problems, because that means that, there's something that's supposed to happen, and I was trying to figure it out, and I just shot you that message, and there you were, and it was perfect. I'm so glad that worked out.
Yeah, me too. I think, it was just one of those things. Yeah. So, all right, it worked out. We're fine. Sure. Everyone's good. And, I would love people to listen to our show on Midnight Society.
Absolutely. It's a great show. Tim does a good job. You do too.
Yeah. Midnight.fm and check it out. And then if they're interested in my classes, butterflyeffectcenter.com. And if anybody knows...
Oh, I can't hear you. Well, it shows her still there. Let's go and see if we can find what everybody knows. So, I know, it's been a day, right? Hey there, we are back on the air, and you were saying that if anybody knows, and then you were gone.
Oh, if anybody knows an author that needs a publicist, my website is litmmedia.com. So I'm looking for clients that I can help, and so that's my other thing. And then, that's what's going on. Thank you, Kat.
Well, thank you. And April says that she's heard of butterfly effects before, so it was really cool that you were on tonight.
Oh, great. Thank you. Nice. Great. Reach out to me, butterflyeffectcenter.com. Mm-hmm. Don't forget the center part.
Well, the center is key for some of the other things that go by that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you again so much for being here. I have had a great time. I have learned so much. I have so many notes. And I love going back and reviewing those. And the chat room is very impressed and say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Again, we will be back. We've got shows going everywhere this week. We've got Denise Pridemore tomorrow night with the Paranormal Pride. I will be back on Wednesday night with Paranormal Experienced with Kat Hobson. And Friday, we will be having a rebroadcast of Shelley Burke Robertson's show. And I'm going to tell you, this one was on Haunted Islands. If you missed it, it was fabulous. So I am so appreciative of every single one of y'all. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to us live or if you're catching a podcast download later, thanks. Y'all are the reason we do it. And don't forget, you know, I say it all the time. I know y'all get tired of it, but it's really, really true that if you don't like what you're seeing out in the world today, change it. You can do that. As we were talking about in the show tonight, you can manifest things with your intent, with your words. You can change environments, you can change yourself, you can change everything. So I just think it's important, and I think that you need to take that power and just, you know, take ownership. It's your world. Wherever you go, wherever you belong, that's your world. And you have the authority and the power to manifest through positivity and make it a place that you want to be. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Same cat time, same cat channel. Good night.